Hello everyone, welcome to another weekly video update. All right, what's on the agenda for this week? Talk a little bit about our assignments as we typically do, and then we're going to talk about building your evaluation strategy matrices. Again, the series that we started last week with the chain of impact and business alignment. Now we'll do a little recap of that, flowing into the data collection plan and then the data analysis ROI plan. And then finally, I have a few words about project management. Let's get started. Assignments. All right, so you've been working on discussion board assignment number 1, a learning intervention for work engagement, my personal favorite. Anyway, that post was due on the 21st, and the peer response to everyone is due on Friday by 11:55 p.m. Now I'm going to ask, as you continue to do your discussion board assignments, be sure to refer back to that rubric, because that's what I'm going to use to score them. It's kind of an important point. Don't forget. All right, corrected evaluation strategy summary. All right, that puppy's due on Sunday, 11:55 p.m. I've already provided feedback to everybody. Good job, by the way. Very good. And not a whole lot of correction to do or questions to be answered for me. So thank you very much for putting in the time and the effort to get those right. Okay, week 4 coming up. Discussion board assignment 2, lean concepts in healthcare. Post will be due Wednesday. Peer response, at least to one of your peers by Friday. Again, be sure to use the rubric. Draft evaluation strategy matrices, chain of impact, business alignment, data collection plan, ROI analysis plan. That's all coming up on the 1st of November, coming due 1st of November. If you don't get a chance to look at these videos, be sure to at least review the slides, and then you can make a decision. These last two, this one and the one before it, especially a little lengthy, I think. So use your best judgment. But I won't steer you wrong. You watch the video, you won't be disappointed, okay? All right, important point. Use the MS Word template for the chain of impact, business alignment, linkage, data collection plan, ROI analysis plan. I updated it last week. So if you pulled down a version before that, go back in and pull this one down. Use it. It'll do you good. All right, week 5. Discussion board number 3. That'll be our final discussion board for the course, developing the ROI of an online English as a second language program. Again, 40 points as the other two. Post Wednesday, response to one other peer, due Friday. Also, on week 5, which is week after next, you'll have an opportunity to work on your fully assembled draft evaluation strategy that will be due on November 15th. This is an important one, and it'll be the last feedback that I'm going to be giving to you, okay? So you have a little extra time to work on that, and that's a good thing. This is also where you're going to be integrating your matrices, okay? I'm going to back up just a hair. Yes, your draft matrices are going to be due to me at the end of next week, week 4. So bear that in mind. I'm going to give you feedback on those. And then moving into week 5, you'll be working on your fully assembled draft, which means the narrative, bringing together with the matrices in the same document, any references, and please remember, I'm asking you to have 5 references, okay? We need some scholarly references in there, so don't be afraid to get into the library, Google Scholar, and just use those sources to support your arguments for your project. That's all you need to do, piece of cake. Give you an example. If you're using a, let's say you're going to evaluate a leadership intervention, a training, okay, for leadership. immediate managers, then there should be some research in there that suggests that that's probably a good idea. Anyway, you get the point. All right, our favorite part, building your evaluation strategy. All right, do a little chain of impact, recap, data collection plan, and data analysis ROI plan. So, piece of cake, right? Here we go. All right, starting last week, we looked at the ROI methodology model, and we had pointed out that for this course, this is the exact place where we're going to be working, planning the evaluation. Now, in order to plan the evaluation, you have to know about collecting data, analyzing data, optimizing results, all those other things that are in the model. But what we're going to be looking for here is the actual plan itself. Okay, remember, start with the why, align progress with, or programs rather, not progress, but programs with your business. So we talked about that. The why of the program is the business need. Is it worth doing? Is the problem worth solving? Is the opportunity worth pursuing? And is it value added? And you started to answer that question as you were looking at your draft evaluation narratives or summaries during this last week. Make it feasible, select the right solution. What does that mean? Identify the causes of the problems or explore ways to address the opportunities. What needs to change to influence impact? What can enable this change? And what is the best solution? And I'll say in your summaries, you did a good job of all of that. Very well in tune. Good business cases for your projects. Okay, expect success. That is planning results. And that's really where we're at right now. You want to define success, set objectives, levels. At the 5 levels, define responsibilities, define data collection and ROI analysis plans. And that we're going to talk about in more detail today. Okay, recap. As we said before, an effective chain of impact business alignment does these things. It assesses needs at 5 levels, helps you develop program and project objectives, intervention objectives, if you will, helps you determine evaluation strategies, shows the chain of impact, provides structure, aids in communication. Before you do your other 2 matrices, always start with this one. That's my tip of the day. I'll have some more tips of the day, I guess, but that's probably the more important one of all of them because, and here's the real hint, a lot of the information that you will put onto the data collection tool or plan matrix will come from your chain of impact business alignment. Same is true for your ROI analysis plan. So bear that in mind. Start with the chain of impact. Okay. Speaking of which, your matrix for chain of impact is reflected in this way. And if you may recall, we said that we always start our assessment of needs or our business arguments with the payoff at level 5. And that should be expressed in some financial terms, cost avoidance, for instance, for whatever the thing is costing you. For instance, could be like employee turnover, avoid costs associated with employee turnover, something along those lines. And then moving across, we come to the objective, just set a target ROI here, a percentage, 15%, 25%. 25% is most common, 0% would be break even. You make the call, and you won't be wrong, whatever that call is, 0, 15, 25. Unless you go crazy on me and you start saying, yeah, I'm going to have a 600% ROI. You can't project that high. It's just not done. And besides, you want to set yourself up for success and not disappoint. Remember, under promise, over deliver. And we're moving across to the ROI calculation. The only thing that goes in that block on your matrix will be calculate ROI. For the most part, that's it. That's all you need to say. Nothing more. Okay. Business needs going down. You want to reflect what those needs are. So in this case, reduce turnover. Using that, you reduce employee turnover. If number 5 is reduce costs associated with employee turnover, then number 4 is reduce the employee turnover. Impact objectives, you might set a percentage, you should. A target. Can't make a wrong guess here. Usually see some say, well, reduce employee turnover by 10%. Piece of cake, right? All right, moving over to impact measures. What are you going to measure? Well, you're going to measure the employee turnover in this case, and I would recommend that you do it before your learning intervention or before the program starts and 6 months after. I'll explain why in a moment. But when I get into level 3. Level 3, we said those are your performance needs. You need something to happen. In this case, let's just say you need supervisors to set up to apply some leadership, all right? Apply some leadership skills, perhaps that they had learned in an intervention that you taught them. So if they can provide better leadership at level 3, then you're thinking, well, you know, what's the application objective? Well, then you could say leaders consistently use their leadership skills on the job and create a more productive or engaging environment, however that works out for you. And then application measures. Here I would say 3 months after the learning intervention at level 2. In most cases, we're going to check. Well, how do you check is what you're going to put in this block. So you have a time, 3 months, and what are we going to check? Let's have the people who went through the training, the participants who were supposed to be applying these new skills and knowledge on the job. We'll have them self-assess. We could also do a 360 degree assessment, and that is have their peers assess them, as well as perhaps even their subordinates or the people that they're supposed to be leading into greater levels of performance, those kinds of things. So, and the reason why you want to do that one, let's say, and I'm just throwing a pretty common number out here for this, 3 months after the learning intervention is over, is so that they can practice on the job. That is, they can use the new skills and have them become habit on the job. And the reason why you do the level 4 measures, let's say it's 6 months, again, a very common measure, is so that those habits have a chance to result in some business measures or some business outcomes or impacts. So that's what that's about. Learning needs, level 2. Okay, we said that learning needs in this case were that we'll throw out an example, need the supervisors to learn how to lead more effectively. Learning outcomes, pass the learning objectives of their leadership development program, perhaps with a second score, with a specified score, 70%, 80%, it really doesn't matter. You decide based on your program. And that the learning measures will be perhaps a post-test or a final exam at the end. Could also involve some role play, some skill practices conducted by the facilitator, those types of things. And all of that will occur during and at the very end of the training. You might even do a pre-test, by the way, just so you can measure the difference between their skills at the beginning and their skills at the end. So those are things that you can do all within that bubble of learning. And then finally, preference needs. Again, we're going to look at participants here, as we said before. And with the participants, it's basically we want them, okay? We want them to value the content, value the instruction as something that's relevant and important to their work, something they're going to use, something they're going to implement, but something that they're going to want to learn, okay? And we can do that at the end of the level 2 training period. We can assess that, or we can assess it throughout, or at the beginning and the end. Your call. Reaction objectives, usually, at least for my part, I always ask the 2 questions. You know, I'll ask the donut, you know, with the donut's a good question, that's fine. But I'm going to ask more serious things like, did you found the content as relevant, as important to your success on the job? Those kinds of things. Okay. I'll also ask about the quality of the materials and all the rest of it, but those two would be the main ones. And the reaction measures, then of course, would be how would you measure that? How would you take it? Well, you could do a questionnaire at the end of the learning intervention. Could be one way, or you could do interviews. However you want to manage that. So that's a brief recap of that. You'll identify needs, business case, objectives. What objectives have you established to address the problem and improve performance? And then finally, how you will evaluate, what measures will you take so that you know you reached your objectives. Again, another look at the form. If the form you pulled down doesn't have the words in the upper left saying Table 1, you have the wrong form. So go back in there, pull down the right template. Okay, so you get an example, and I'm gonna just for familiarity, I'm gonna use the same example that you had this week in your case study, a learning intervention for work engagement. Makes it a little easier for us. So in front of all of that, when you look at the chain of impact and the business alignment, this is the one that was used for that project. Leadership development intervention for immediate managers to facilitate improved work engagement and job performance and reduce controllable product waste and rework. So I always like to keep the target out in front of me, sort of a purpose statement, if you will. Not a bad thing to do while you're developing this. So 3 categories. Needs. Address product waste in this case and rework. In other words, reduce them. Do something about those disengaged employees. In other words, create an environment where they'll be more engaged or have higher engagement levels. And also with that, to do that, help you have a need in there to skill up the immediate managers, because in this particular case study, and they were inexperienced, they were new to the job, and they just didn't understand a lot about leadership and supervision. So that was the idea. Give them those skills, teach them about building motivational work environments and addressing work engagement, those kinds of things. So your objectives, talk about leadership development intervention to improve work engagement, job performance, business impact, and return on investment. Back up, back up, back down. In a moment. Okay. So, sorry about that. First line here, I hit the wrong button. It happens. I'm not going to re-record this, so please bear with me. Okay. So, first line, let's start at level 5, payoff needs. Avoid costs associated with controllable waste and rework. Remember, these were plastic pellets, a product that the company was making, and it would be sold off to be formed into edible, medical, plastic wrappings, those kinds of things. Or containers for sodas or cosmetics. Anyway, there was too much waste, too much rework, and much of it was controllable. So the payoff was they wanted to, or the customer wanted to stop spending a whole bunch of money fixing or having to redo or put more materials for work that should have come out at the right level of quality to begin with. Okay, and the ROI objective here, was to target return on investment at 15%, set it pretty low. That was negotiated with the client. And ROI, measurement and evaluation across the board there. You say measurement and evaluation, what are we doing? We're going to calculate the ROI. At the next level, business needs, reduce controllable waste and rework. Remember up here, we said we wanted to avoid the costs associated with the controllable waste and rework. Here, we're going to reduce the controllable waste and rework. This is how the chain of impact works. One level necessarily feeds into the next. Impact objectives, monthly percentages of controllable product waste and rework decline, increase work engagement. How are we going to measure it? Percentages of controllable product waste and rework at 8 months in this case, after completion of the program, compared to the same measurements taken before the program, and we measured work engagement with the Utrecht work engagement scale. And we did that of the direct reports at 6 months. Job performance, immediate manager effectiveness. I need to improve immediate manager effectiveness in the areas of leadership, setting and maintaining standards, developing and motivating employees. Application objectives here. Effectively and continuously apply the 5 self-coaching skills at work. That was the content of their learning. And effectively create and sustain motivational work environments that increase engagement. How do you measure it? Participant self-assessments at 3 months after completion of the program, and the Utrecht engagement scale measurement of direct reports at 3 months. The learning, increase success to increase success skills of immediate managers in the areas of leadership, setting and maintaining standards, and developing and motivating employees. Learning objective here, middle column. Immediate managers learn to effectively apply the 5 self-coaching skills of self-managing, reflecting, acting consciously, collaborating, and evolving, and learn how to foster and maintain the work environments that increase engagement. And on the far right, how do you measure it? Session content summaries, participant assignments, and skill development journal entries during the program, a pre and post self-assessment profile of each of the participants, and the Utrecht work engagement scale. Again, finally, preference, learning that is relevant and important to successful job performance, reaction, not research, reaction objectives. Program content receives a favorable 4 out of 5 in relevance and importance. 80% of participants identify planned actions, reaction. Then again, we will use a questionnaire at the end of each session of the program. There were 7 sessions in total. Okay, so I went over that in a little more detail because it's going to be relevant to our discussion on the data collection plan, because I have examples there too, data collection and ROI or analysis ROI plan. Hey, what do these do for us? Data collection plan. Well, an effective data collection plan answers fundamental questions about data collection. Whoa, that was deep. Okay, so first of all, why are you collecting the data? Those are going to be your broad program objectives at each level of the evaluation. What data will you collect? How will you collect that data? Where does the data come from? When will you collect the data? And who will collect the data? Who's responsible for gathering it? These are what can constitute a good data collection plan. You need to know why, what, how, where, when, and who. And always start with your chain of impact, business alignment. That matrix that you will have filled out will answer these questions. Or at least it'll give you enough information to find the answers to some of these questions if you don't already have them. Okay, data collection plan, that's what that looks like. If you pull down a template and it didn't say table 2 in the upper left-hand corner, go back, do it again. Okay, so if you look across the top of this thing, you'll see broad program objectives, measures, data collection methods, instruments, data sources, timing, and responsibility. Same here, right? Why are you collecting? What will you collect? How will you collect? Where does the data come from? When will you collect the data? Who will collect the data? Okay, so same questions are on the template. Yes, they are, to help you. So have your business alignment handy. Pull out the template, start filling out the blocks. Piece of cake, right? And I'm going to give you feedback on it. Okay, here's the one from this week's case study, a learning intervention for work engagement. Okay, reaction. Okay, broad program objectives. Program content receives favorable ratings from participants. Participants plan to apply learning on the job. And remember, we had specified that content, that favorable response was going to be for what? It was going to be for relevance and importance. And of course, there were other things on that particular questionnaire. Measures data. Program content receives an average favorable rating of 4 out of 5 for relevance and importance. 80% of participants identify planned actions. That answers the question of what data you will collect. Data collection methods, questionnaires, that's how we're going to do it. Where does the data come from? When you talk about where data comes from, think about people that you need to contact or talk to or to extract in some way, shape, or form the data. In this case, it's going to be the participants of the learning intervention of that leadership development program. When are you going to do it? That's the timing. End of each session during the learning program. Piece of cake, right? There were 7 sessions, so there were 7 questionnaires for each of those sessions. And who's responsible for collecting the data? In this case, it was the facilitator. Next, learning. Objectives. Learn to effectively apply the 5 self-coaching skills of self-managing, reflecting, acting consciously, collaborating, and evolving. Learn to foster motivational work environments that increase work engagement. Sound familiar? Should, because it was on the chain of impact. Moving along. Participants in measures and data. What data? Participants demonstrate successful completion program. Completion of the program learning objectives outlined in the facilitator and participant guides. Self-assessment of skills and work engagement. So that's the data, or what data we're going to collect. Now we have to answer the question. How are we going to collect it? Observations of performance, guided discussions, questioning, and assignments, skill development journals, pre, post, self-assessment profile, and the Utrecht work engagement scale. Where does the data come from? The facilitator's observations, the participants themselves. For the first one, facilitator watched the participants, so that's where the data is coming from. For the next ones, participants will provide the skill development journals and pre-post self-assessment data, and then the Utrecht engagement scale of the work engagement levels of the direct reports. Timing, when do you do it? You collect the data, 90-day learning program throughout that at day 0, day 90, day 0, day 45, day 90. And these are a little bit different, but they're good. They're right on target. Facilitator is responsible for collecting that data. Application. What are your objectives? Apply the 5 self-coaching skills at work. Foster a motivational work environment that increases work engagement. And we're talking about the participants of the learning program. So once the learning program's over, they're back on the job. This is where level 3 application happens. So measures of data, we're going to take self-assessments and we're going to measure work engagement. How are we going to do it? Questionnaires, Utrecht work engagement scale. The data is going to come from the participants of the learning program who are now on the job applying the skills, as well as the direct reports. We're going to do it 3 months after the program completion. Why? To allow them to develop their habits on the job. Who's going to do it? The program manager is going to actually collect that data. Next, impact. Remember, reduce product waste and rework, increase work engagement. A couple of things going on there, right? Too much waste, too much rework, and not enough engagement. What data are we going to collect? Percentage of controllable waste and rework generated by production business unit, in this case, and work engagement. We only did one business out of 4, one business unit out of 14 for this particular program. It was production. Organizational records, databases is where that data would come from, the level 4 data, and the UWES or Utrecht Working Engagement Scale would be the survey that we would give to the direct reports to see how their levels were changing. Business unit manager and direct reports, that's where the data was going to come from. So we had to go to the business unit manager to pull the controllable waste and rework numbers. The direct reports is where the UWES or the work engagement data came from. These intervals were 8 months after the program compared with pre-program data for waste and rework, and also 6 months again for the Utrecht Work Engagement Scale. The point I do need to point out here, as you probably recall reading from the case study, is this was a control group scenario. So we had a control and a test group. The control was the maintenance unit. The test group, of course, was the production unit. And who's going to collect all this data for us? Make sure we get it. Program manager. Okay, level 5, not a whole lot to remember here. You had a target of 15%. That's your plan. And all you're going to do is calculate ROI. So that's the example from this week's reading, or case study, if you will. Let's get into the data analysis ROI plan. And effective data analysis ROI plan shows what? Level 4 data items from your data collection plan. That's right, the level 4 data items from your data collection plan, the data that you collect about organizational impact. At least one method for isolating the effects of the program. Remember operating principle number 7, you must have at least one. What does that look like? You can use a control group arrangement, trend line analysis, estimates corrected for error. These are the most typical ones, and they are listed here from most reliable to the next most reliable down to the least. So top 3. Now, you have to remember when you're setting up these methods and thinking about them, you need to keep it practical. What can you actually do? For instance, control group. There are certain circumstances in business environments where you just can't do it. Okay, for whatever reason, you can't set up decent control groups with a test group and the control group to do a comparative study. There's issues of cross-contamination from one to the next, and that kind of skews your data, those kinds of things. Trend line analysis. Trend line analysis is a procedure that you can see in your 12 easy steps. It's also written in the text, really easy to do, but impossible to do unless you have accumulated data in your databases or in your historical records from before the intervention started. If you don't have that, you don't have the baseline, you can't do the trend line analysis. And then, estimates corrected for error. Those usually come from the participants, the supervisors of participants, and you always want to do corrected for error. There's a very simple way to do that. Just ask them first how much of the improvement was caused by the intervention, and then follow that up with a second question: how confident are you in your estimate? You do that for everybody that you're including in that group to help with the estimate. You average them all out, and it'll give you a number that you can work with. Okay, and so if I say, well, I'm 80% confident in my 50% estimate of the level of improvement, you multiply those two together, and I'm not doing math here verbally by thought, but you get the idea. It's not going to be 50% anymore. It'll be less, probably around 40%. So that's how that works. Look at that procedure. I will tell you most data analysis ROI plans have estimates corrected for error as that method for isolating effects. Ways for converting program results to dollar values. This is important. So waste and rework, for instance, in our example, were fairly easy to do because the company had already been tracking that data. They knew how much to the dollar each percent of waste and each percent of rework was costing the company. So for me, that was easy. Sometimes you have to go a little beyond that into other areas. So let's talk about that for a second. So standard values for output and quality measures. There's some industry examples. For instance, turnover, I think, has a number tied to it, or percentage of a person's annual pay tied to it. That's pretty universal. You could use that. Participant wages plus benefits could be another one that you use. For instance, time away from work, right? Sick leave, whatever, accidents, incidents, those kinds of things that pull people away from work, their work. You can certainly use their wages plus their benefits to calculate a dollar value for that time. Historical records. In our case, with the learning intervention for work engagement, really easy because the company had already been tracking waste and rework, not only the numbers, but also the percentages and the value of those percentages. Program cost categories. This is important. Well, it's all important, but this is really important too. Program cost categories, what we're talking about is the cost of your intervention or your program or your project. So what does that mean? Basically, it means if it was a learning intervention, you're going to talk about things like the cost of the facilitator, the cost of the people's time away from work, the cost of the materials, the cost, if I didn't mention already, the facility, the supplies, everything, okay? You want to load that up, what we call fully loaded, as much as you can, because what that does is it increases what's in the denominator of the ROI calculation, and it returns a more conservative ROI. A more conservative ROI with more conservative methods is going to have more credibility with the stakeholders of your evaluation. So bear that in mind. Tangible benefits. Those are the level 4 measures that you choose not to include in the ROI calculation. Now, that could be for a number of reasons, but sometimes things are a little fuzzy as far as, well, how am I going to take work engagement, for instance, and calculate a dollar value? Now, there is a way to do that, but we already had a measure in that particular example that we would have tied it to, and it would have been the same number. So we just elected to list it as an intangible instead. I'll show you what I mean. Also, communication targets for the evaluation. If you want the thing to stick, so to speak, you want the intervention to perhaps grow new improvement projects. You want that facilitated improvement to be accepted by your stakeholders. Well, you need to communicate to them at several different levels what you did, how you did it, their involvement, their contribution to it. That builds buy-in, that builds your credibility, that builds your program. Okay, data analysis ROI plan looks like this. Again, in this case, if it doesn't say table 3, in the upper left-hand corner, pull down the new matrix template, please. Okay, so moving from left to right, data items. I specify use level 4. I know the reading is like usually level 4, use level 4, because for our purposes here, that is the most reliable way. You don't take any other data and convert it to dollars. Okay, so just really, you kind of lose something in the translation there. So methods for isolating the effects of the program. Method for converting data to monetary values. You have to be able to do that. Cost categories for your program, intangible benefits. Those are the level 4 items that you did not convert to dollars. Communication targets for your final report. Notes, really other influences or issues that occurred during the application of your program, and then any additional comments. So back to our example, learning intervention for work engagement. Data items. You may recall from the V diagram or from the business alignment and the data collection plan, or level 4 items were percentage of controllable waste, percentage of controllable rework, and work engagement. Methods for isolating the effects of the program. Participant and management estimates corrected for error. Since we're in a class, in a course for this, I'm going to ask you, if you use estimates, to please put those words on there so I know you heard them here. Participant and management estimates corrected for error. It's in the narrative of this report that you read, the case study. I want to see it on your I want to see it in your report, and I would like to see it on your ROI analysis or data analysis ROI plan. Okay, and trend analysis. Use 2, not 1. I used 2 for this with my group because they had pre-data. We were able to collect data throughout the entire intervention, and after even long after the intervention was over, so we were able to do a trend line analysis. So we have that, and the participant and management estimates corrected for error. You only need 1. It's okay to have 2. All right, method for converting data to monetary values. As I mentioned, the historical records showed from that organization that the percentage of controllable waste for every 1% was costing them $245,000. Same thing for every 1% of controllable rework, $35,000. And work engagement specified here was not converted to a monetary value. You'll see that work engagement in intangible benefits. Cost categories, okay, consulting fees, needs assessment, program design and development, learning delivery, and program evaluation. High-level description of many things that went into it, but basically categories. Printing and supplies, participant salaries, facilities, and facilitator travel. You may think of more for your particular program, or your program is going to be different. Might not be a learning intervention. So whatever the cost categories are, think of things of you know, how much or all the things that went into the program. For instance, I have participant salaries here. Well, while they were in the 7 sessions, they weren't at work, right? That counts for something. Salaries and benefits combined. Intangibles, we said we weren't going to convert work engagement. So there it is, top of the list, increased work engagement. We also have some others that the participants provided that weren't level 4 items, and that's okay. List them, because when you come out to do your briefings to them and to communicate the results, it's always good when the client hears their own thing, right? It's intangible. You didn't have to measure it. Doesn't cost you a thing to slip it in here. All right. So employee satisfaction, improved teamwork and communications, better decision-making actually came out of that. And I'm only including communication targets for final report in this version because we didn't have other comments. Here, management, participants, training department, and human resources were the primary targets. And of course, the decision there was, do we take this leadership development intervention for immediate managers to facilitate improved work engagement, job performance, and reduce controllable product waste or rework, or whatever those other things are that are eating the lunches of the various business units, and spread it around to the other 13 beyond the 1. That was the deal. So these are the people that could make that happen. All right, a little bit about project management. An evaluation is a project. As you have probably gathered from your reading, okay, I do not ask for you in your evaluation strategy to provide a timeline, a work breakdown structure of what, where, how, when, and who you're going to do all the things that you're going to do beyond what's already on your data collection plan, okay? But we all live in a real world. At some point, okay, you're gonna have to think these things through and set up a schedule and who's on your team, and you're gonna be a project manager for your evaluation. So I wanted to point that out. If you put a project plan, something along these lines, in your report, to me, that's happy making. Love to see it. You're acknowledging the fact that that's something that, one, you not only have a plan to do, but you plan to do, that kind of thing. And while we're on the subject of planning, always remember as you're developing these plans and you're thinking about the strategies, keep the 12 guiding principles close at hand. They will tell you basically everything that you need to do that will affect the quality and the credibility of your evaluation. All right, that's it for building your matrices for this time, and I think that'll conclude the series. Yay! All right, so virtual office hour number 2 coming up on Monday, 6 p.m. Central Time, and it'll run from 6 to 7. Remember, attendance is strictly voluntary. You don't have to be there. It's going to be in Microsoft Teams, accessible in Canvas. There's a link. And if no one joins by 6:10, I am out of here. That's right. So don't leave me hanging, or I'll be on my way. Fair enough. And also, don't forget, you can reach out to me using other media. We can have one-on-one conversations. You can text me. You can call me. You can email me. Whatever it takes, I'm here for you. All right. Well, I am going to say that is it. That is it for this week. More than enough, I'm sure. So I'm going to leave you with just this thought. If you have any questions, concerns, comments about anything, this presentation, the feedback that I've been providing you up to this point and beyond, upcoming assignments, whatever those things are, please reach out. Don't hesitate. And with that, have a great weekend.